Welcome, everybody, to Let's Talk Computer Science, a podcast dedicated to talking about the past, present, and future of computer science. This podcast, of course, is made possible by our friends at Rex Academy. Be sure to check out their amazing CS platform, including courses on cybersecurity and AI. Don't have a teacher? Not a problem. Rex is now providing instructors as part of their platform, whether it be in person or online. Be sure to check them out at rex.academy. And today on the podcast, I'm excited to add someone from the show from the state of Illinois, which is a state I've done a lot of work at over the years, of course, near the Chicago area, but she covers the entire state. This is Sarah Phelps. She's the Computer Science and STEM Program Manager at the Learning Technology Center of Illinois. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So first question, what is the LTC? So every state kind of has different things. Tell me what the LTC, the Learning Technology Center, does.
Absolutely. So some states have departments of education. Illinois has a state board of education, and then that state board of education has created programs to help support different education initiatives, and our educational program is related to technology. So we support technology in the Illinois school districts, everything from access, so getting the devices, getting good broadband connection, cybersecurity, data privacy, and then we also have some instructional technology support. So we have instructional technology coaches, and then me. I help districts who are looking to expand computer science education or their STEM programming. I also do a lot of professional development coordination for teachers in Illinois so that we can start to help teachers become comfortable with and teach computer science.
And I just spoke with someone in a previous podcast about the laws in their state of New York. I'm curious, what is Illinois, before we get into your backstory, what is Illinois' like stance on computer science? Are they putting it into like some sort of like programmatic practice? Like it has to be a part of something. Where do they stand on comp sci?
So this school year coming up, so 2023, 2024, every public Illinois high school has to offer an introductory computer science course. We did pass computer science standards. They've been active for over a year now. They very much reflect the CSTA national standards, but those were adopted last January. And now, for starting next school year, every high school has to offer a course that's accessible to all students.
Awesome. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about your backstory. So what got you involved? Like, what was the one thing? Was there a moment in time when you were like, oh, I love computer science? Or maybe was it just a game or a platform? You could either be as a student or as a teacher. Tell me what was your moment that got you hooked?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you candidly, the real moment that I got hooked, it was actually personally. So my husband is a software developer. He has a degree in computer science
Nice.
and electrical engineering, and we are high school sweethearts. So we've basically grown up together. And he always would talk about computer science. We grew up in a small rural town in Illinois. We didn't have a robust computer science program. So he was interested in computer science because of a relative. I didn't have anybody that I even knew. I mean, none of my family, we didn't even have a home computer until I was in high school. So I didn't have any concept of what computer science was. But my husband would often encourage me, and he's like, you should try coding sometime. I think you would be really good at it. And I was always really intimidated because I didn't like to do anything that I didn't think I was going to be successful at. And in my mind, there was no way I was going to be successful at computer science. I didn't have any background. So in 2013, the first hour of code year, he comes to me very candidly and he's like, you can try an hour of code. This is meant for people who don't have any background. And I was still extremely hesitant and kind of pushed him off and was like, no way, no way. And my mother-in-law called one evening of our CS Ed week and was like, I did my hour of code. And I immediately felt like really embarrassed because I wouldn't even go to the website. I was so worried that I would be intimidated. So I finally gave in, got on, did my hour of code with Anna and Elsa, making snowflakes. At the time, I was a fourth grade teacher, and so I was like, "This is really cool." It definitely took me an entire hour, maybe longer. But I took it to my classroom the very next day. I thought it was so fun, and I had a couple of students who didn't love math. They actually they would get easily frustrated by it, and so I was a little worried because if you've ever done making snowflakes with Anna and Elsa, it's basically geometry and computer science and. So I introduced it to them, and my friend, who usually would get very disappointed in himself and sometimes even very emotional outbursts because of math, he finished it in 15 minutes. And I mean, like legitimately, he's shined and he was so excited. And I had a conversation with him afterwards after he printed his certificate. He said, this was so great. Can we do more of this? And I said, absolutely. But buddy, I wanted you to know something. Remember how I always tell you that you are so good at math? And he's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, you just did computer science and it was all math related. And his whole, like you could just tell that for the first time, he was very proud of himself. Something he didn't believe that he could do, that he schooled his teacher very much, and his classmates. And he was just, I swear that was like a moment that I realized how powerful computer science could be for students. And like I said, I was a fourth grade teacher at the time, and it wasn't long that my school district wanted to add a computer course and said, "Hey, we really don't know what we want this to be. You kind of have some freedom. Do you want to be in charge of it?" And I took it on, and I knew instantly that I was going to be doing computer science because I knew what an amazing impact it could have on student learning.
Well, a lot to unpack there. First of all, goosebump moment. I love it when you hear stories about kids like that and those kind of aha. Like this is the moment when you're a teacher. There's nothing like it. I, as a former classroom teacher, when I saw kids click when it came to reading, or maybe it was computer science, maybe it was something, I was like, oh, that was like it for me because we don't get paid a lot, right?
Right.
So I love that. The backstory of that too is great. I mean, the support, you have to find somebody in your network, and in your case, in your household,
Right.
that is the person that's willing to kind of push you a little bit, right? Or in the role you're in right now, do you feel like you're that person? Are you going and you're saying, "Hey, I'll come in with you, but also I'm going to kind of push a little bit." How does that work?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, this is my first year in this role. Previously, I was that instructional technology coach role, and a lot of times when teachers were looking for something new or different to engage their students, or they just wanted to kind of, like you said, kind of push themselves a little bit, they would say, "Hey, can you come in and show me this?" Actually, I was a Code.org CS fundamentals facilitator for a while as well, because once I found the success with the Code.org resources, I was like, everybody needs to know about this. And so I would facilitate trainings usually during the summertime. And I actually just had an amazing interaction with somebody who had attended one of my trainings, because every time I do facilitation or I push in as a classroom into a classroom as a coach, my attitude is always like, we can do this, you can do this, your kids can do this. We just need the tools. And so that was definitely a theme of all of my trainings. And I had a teacher approach me at a conference recently, and she's like, "Hey, I just want you to know that you kept reiterating, like, everybody can do this. You are capable. I'm going to equip you with what you need. I'm going to be here to support you." And she's like, "When I left that training, I believed you. And I went into my classroom and I didn't believe myself, but I believed you." And he started doing it,
Wow.
and I did it. I did it. And my students are doing it. And I'm like, that's sometimes that's our biggest hurdle, is the belief that
Yeah.
we can do it. Actually, a lot of times teachers are like, "No, I believe my students can do it. I'm just not sure I can." And I'm like, "That's okay.
Right.
Actually, that's okay."
I mean, that's in a nutshell. I mean, and this is also, I would say, true of other, I think math is a subject that I hear this in a lot. Art and creativity, I hear this a lot because some teachers just, they self doubt their own abilities so much that they're like, I'm not going to even let my kids have an opportunity to try it because I don't know it very well. And you just basically said, yes, that's probably true. And first of all, like you said, it took you more than an hour to do the hour of code, but then the kid comes in and he does it in 15 minutes and you're like, wait a minute, this is amazing. Why am I being the one that's roadblocking them? And so I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just from talking to you, it sounds like that's like one of the bigger barriers that teachers are running into is just like their own self doubt. So I guess my next question for you is, once you get that teacher that finally gets that aha moment, you're like, okay, great, I got it, I figured it out. How do you get that to spread? Like, how do you make that just become wildfire and say, okay, now go tell a colleague or now share? What in your role do you do some of that spreading of that information too?
Yeah, I do say sometimes, like, I'm kind of an evangelist when it comes to CS education.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what it takes is teachers seeing that CS is a tool that can help them teach other things. Like my example with the hour of code, right? It was reinforcing math concepts. It really taps into student creativity. It allows students to represent their learning in a unique, different way. It helps support their problem solving and critical thinking. And those are things teachers very, very desperately want their students to have opportunities to expand and to grow in, but they don't always feel like they have the tools to do that. So when they see that computer science, we're not just learning it to learn computer science. It's not this isolated concept. It is going to help, you know, it's out there in the world in every single career path in every single discipline. Computer science is a tool. It's harnessing computers to allow us to do these amazing things and solve these amazing problems. Once teachers see that they can connect it to what they know and what they are experts in, that helps them. And also once they just kind of take that veil off and recognize like a lot of the concepts within computer science are things that they are familiar with. We actually, the LTC just created this amazing resource called Coding for Littles, and the whole concept
Oh,
behind the
great.
resource is helping teachers identify things that they're doing in their classrooms that then they could pair with a computer science concept to help reinforce and add some academic language. Things like Simon Says, and things like when you're doing, coordinate planes, hey, this is a computer science concept that attaches to. And now it helps teachers feel a little more comfortable. It helps students recognize that overlap of, again, skills that they're already doing. And then it gives us this foundation so that when we do expand and we do try to do maybe some coding with blocks, or we do some coding with text, we have this kind of schema developed that we're like, oh, that is just what I was doing when I was doing this.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, computer science sounds like it has a bit of a marketing slash a little bit of a marketing problem, because I think when people see it or hear it, they hear the word computer, they hear the word science, both very intimidating topics. But what you just said was problem solving, critical thinking. These are all the things we want our kids to have. Computational thinking, maybe a little bit more intense, but that's what everybody wants. So it's almost like we need to rebrand it. But I think right now, I mean, we're kind of stuck with computer science as our thing. And first thing people think of usually is someone sitting there, with their hood on, with like the Matrix flying on the screen,
Right.
right? As they're they're hacking some system. Um, I did some digging, and I noticed that you're doing something called a STEM playground on a Saturday coming up here.
Absolutely.
Give us what is that about? Is that like, are you going to a school? Is it just an opportunity for schools to come in? Are you working with kids? What is that?
So this is actually with an organization in St. Louis called Connected Learning, and they are just a lot of educators who are passionate about opportunities for teachers to learn, but doing it in a way that is more like engaging and connecting with other teachers. So this STEM playground is sort of an ed camp style, where the teachers who
Nice.
attend will kind of choose what we dive into, but we're kind of putting a little bit of parameters on it to talk about STEM related things, because that seems to be on everybody's mind right now. Everybody's trying to, like you said, overcome a little bit of self doubt that they can incorporate these things into their classrooms. So we're going to try to help them connect with resources and other people who can help them feel more comfortable and confident about bringing these opportunities into their own classrooms. So there's going to be candid conversations about different STEM topics. We're going to have lots of demonstrations. So we'll have a room dedicated to 3D printing, where a colleague of mine is going to have some 3D printers up and running, because they know a lot of districts have invested in them and are not quite sure how to really
Yeah.
leverage them in learning. I'm going to have some robots there. We're going to talk about opportunities um, that teachers can quickly, easily bring into their classrooms to start to just engage their students with those computer science and STEM concepts. So should be a day that's really hopefully empowering, but also that connection piece I think is critical. I think a lot of teachers, I think the reason why they're so intimidated by computer science is because it's not something that they experienced. And so it's like asking them to present on something that they just don't know about. So it's hopefully going to
Right.
create this network of teachers. So when they feel like I just don't know about that, they will be able to reach out to this community and say, hey, I just don't know about this. Who can help support me? And we're just hopefully, building one another up and encouraging that new trail that we're all blazing together.
Well, a couple of things there. I love the idea of like just exposing them to it, and then in a way that is almost risk free. Like, hey, we're all here, we're all discovering this together. Therefore, if we all fail together, which is a big part of like my own message in my book that I write about Ready Set Fails. Like, it's one thing to do it by yourself; it's another thing to do it with colleagues and friends. Like, if we all make a mistake together, we can look at each other and go, okay, what did we learn from that? So I love that, and I will say, like 3D printing, I'll walk into rooms like, ooh, that's looks awesome, and I'm a very techie person, but even I'm like, that's a little intimidating. Like, how did you get it to program to make the? So I love that you're giving that opportunity. The second thing you mentioned there, was I think is even more important, is that connection, and the fact that you can build a personalized or professional learning network, right? A PLN around it. So applause to you and you guys there at LTC for kind of being a part of that partnership. I think that's kind of pushing this forward. It's going to get more teachers to believe like, okay, I can do this, and it doesn't have to be a one-off siloed only on Fridays or only hour of code
Right.
like back in the day. And remember that one week before Christmas break, we would do like, all right, now we're gonna do our little coding thing, and then we're gonna put it away for the rest of the
Right.
year. Yeah,
Right.
let's not do that. So where can more people find out? How can people find out more about you and the great work that you're doing there?
Well, I absolutely love social networks. So I'm on Twitter. I'm at Mrs. Phelps Codes. That was my Twitter handle as soon as I started to recognize that I absolutely could code. So everybody can have that Twitter handle as well, because you can code too. But definitely follow me on Twitter. If you are interested in the work that the LTC is doing, you can find out more about us at ltcillinois.org. And we have some really great opportunities. Even if you're not in Illinois, you can connect with us. We have a community. Actually, it's a community with multiple communities within it that allow for that connection, because that, like we've just kind of talked about, that connection is huge. When you're trying something new, having people that you can reach out to when you have a question or a roadblock. So we have a community system set up. We have networking meetings, and those are open to anybody, not even just Illinois teachers. We also have lots of professional development that's not only in person, but also on demand, and we do webinar series. So again, all of that's accessible to anybody, even if they don't live in Illinois.
And that's one thing I'll say I love about Illinois and working with a lot of the schools there, is that I've noticed you guys are very open to sharing. Like, it's going to take all of us, right, to make this better. And I think applause to you guys in Illinois for doing that. I feel like that's you. New York is another state that I feel like does that a lot. So thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for being a part of the Let's Talk Computer Science podcast. Thanks again to our friends at Rex Academy for making this podcast possible. Be sure to check out their platform at rex.academy. Guys, we all know technology will be a part of our future. And as educators and leaders, it's our job to make sure that all, and I mean all of our students, have an opportunity for that future as well. This has been Carl Hooker, signing off.